Happy holidays, everyone. I'm Dylan. This is Carlo. We're from All You Can Board, and today we are doing our holiday buyer's guide. This is the first one we've done because last holiday we were actually right in the middle of the pandemic, and so Carlo couldn't even come over to my place to do any filming. So this is the first one we're tackling. We're really excited to do this, and just before we jump into it, I just want to go over a little bit of how we're sort of approaching this. So rather than just saying, you know, here's the two-player game we recommend, and here's the family game we recommend, we've kind of created some category titles that, you know, are a little bit more unique, so that hopefully every year we can kind of have a different set of categories that cater to maybe specific games we really want to highlight that people could be looking into, or the certain types of gamers, or, you know, things that apply to that specific year. So we kept this pretty fun, pretty loose, and you'll see that the categories will change every year that we do one of these buyer's guides. And then I know that we each kind of have our own way that we approached the games that we picked themselves. Was there any sort of like criteria you put yourself through to before you made your picks?
Well, here's what I'll say is in a lot of these, I played it pretty safe because if we're only going to each recommend one game per category. So this isn't necessarily like what is our #1 recommendation in the category. At least for me, some of them I was like, I'm just going to play it safe and also high player count a lot of the time, especially some of the categories that direct to like family games or something like that. I was going for like flexible, you know, plays well at a lot of different player counts kind of thing. But and I guess reasonable price point too, because I don't know how much people are willing to spend or planning on spending on gifts, depending who they're buying for. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
They're buying them for me. Hopefully they're planning to spend a lot. That's all I can say. But no. I didn't have many criteria. I tried for a lot of the categories to keep things generally like affordable, but there's some games that just naturally I want to recommend that are a little bit higher, but there's nothing ridiculous. Like there's nothing like it's like $300 on this list or something like that. So yeah, those are pretty much what I decided for these games. So we're going to jump right into it. The first category we're going to talk about is one we call For That Lazy Morning Over the Holidays. So this is more of like a relaxing game that you can kick back and play either by yourself, maybe if it has a solo mode, or with other people, and you don't have, there's not a lot of pressure to really like take out a whole lot of components and just like make a big show of it. You can kind of just have your coffee, have your tea, and enjoy your vacation over the holidays, right?
Yeah.
All right, so you okay with if I jump into this?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right, so my pick for this category is going to be Biblios Quill and Parchment. So this is a roll and write game. It's a roll and write version of Biblios, and Biblios is a really, really good game, one I absolutely love and I would highly recommend. That's not for a lazy, lazy game.
It's a little more. Yeah.
And this one is probably even, I would say, borderline. There is some competitive stuff here, but roll and writes in general are just relaxing by nature because you feel like you can kind of kick back, and even if there is a lot of things you can be doing with your dice, it's something you can have a cup of coffee. You can sit around a couch at a coffee table. You can, you know, sit at a dining room table, whatever the case may be, and you can kind of feel like there's not a lot of pressure on you. So the reason I selected this one is because it's relaxing, but at the same time there is a lot of strategy, and you can dive into it if you want, and you can kind of decide how far you want to take that strategy and in terms of your enjoyment. And on top of that, the solo mode is actually pretty darn good. I would say the solo mode is even more relaxing in the times I play because it eliminates the bidding aspect of it a little bit. Like
there's no competition.
Yeah, really, it's against, you're sort of against the AI in that way. So like it's even more relaxing, but because it has that solo mode, it's something that if, you know, you have some time off on the holidays and you have one of those mornings where, you know, you have nothing going on and, you know, all the Christmas hubbub is all done, or the holiday, you know, gatherings are done, and you're just sitting with your coffee, you can throw this down on the table, have a quick game. You'll be done in like 30 minutes. So Biblios Quill and Parchment is really great, especially if you play Biblios. I think you'll really ease into this one compared to, you know, a roll and write where the theme is completely new to you. But just in general, I was really surprised by this game. I talk about it in the video that we have on our channel about it. It just completely blew me away because I wasn't expecting, because of how much I love Biblios, to be drawn to this one as much as I was.
Yeah, translating into a roll and write, yeah.
But when we played it, I think we all sort of looked at each other after and were like, that was actually really fun. Not that we were expecting it to be bad, but just that, you know, sometimes you expect these different flavors of existing games to sort of have that cash-in mentality where it's like, oh, that game is popular, let's make another version of it. This one did it right, and I think this would be a really great game. If you haven't checked it out, to check it over the holidays, I think you'll get a lot of enjoyment there.
For sure. One thing I want to mention about that I really like about this pick is that a lot of people, like when for that lazy morning, you're having a cup of coffee or tea, like a lot of people like to do like a crossword puzzle or a Sudoku, and this is kind of like, it's not pen and paper, but it is a roll and write, right? So like you can kind of just sit there and quietly writing on your own thing. I think it's the ideal kind of morning game for that.
Yeah, so that's Biblios Quill and Parchment. And again, if you want any more info on it, check out the video on our channel. I compare it to Biblios and go into a lot more depth on stuff.
Yeah, nice pick.
Thanks.
All right, and for mine, I'm going with a game called Cascadia. This is designed by Randy Flynn, published by AEG and Flat Out Games. if you're, you know, pretty into board games, there's a good chance you've already heard of this. It's been talked about a lot already in the last few months. Excellent tile laying game. You're basically putting out tiles that have different regions on them, and you have your different like wildlife types, and you have these different scoring cards that come out. And I really think it's a great relaxing game because first off, you can play it solo. It's 1 to 4 players. And even though there is some interaction in the tiles that you're drafting off the board, like you can take something that you know like your opponent needs, but you are doing your own little puzzle. You're not like, this is a game that you could technically play start to finish, even with 4 players. Like you're all groggy in the morning, you're just having your cup of tea, you're kind of waking up. You can play it in silence, complete silence. You're not attacking each other, but there's still a little bit of that interactivity, and the spatial puzzle that you're doing is really satisfying. I just think it's a great game that works really well at all player counts. It's really a nice looking game too, and just like the whole like nature and animals, like it's just a very like peaceful kind of start your day kind of game. So I highly recommend it. It's a great game, and I think it's kind of something that I definitely see myself playing quite a bit over the holidays, especially like right first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I'm hoping we actually get a game of this in over the holidays because it's been a long time since I played it, and I think that the one time we played it was when it was still either on crowdfunding or it was, you know, just post that period. And we played over TTS with the Flat Out crew, and we definitely played incorrectly.
Yeah, we overlooked a major rule. Yeah,
we did.
Rob
not
just
them.
destroyed
We
us.
did.
Yeah.
So I would love to, now that I know that all the full breadth of the rules, I'd love to sit down with the actual physical copy and give it a shot because I had a blast even when I played it but slightly wrong, and I know it's right up my alley, so I can't wait to play more of it.
Yeah, right on. That is Cascadia.
Nice. All right, so the next category is called For the Gamer Who Enjoys Some Alone Time, and this is just anyone who enjoys solo gaming, and we touched on that already with, like I said, with Biblio, Skull, and Parchment. This is one that we are picking based on it being just a really solid solo experience. So my pick, and this might not be very surprising to many people who are on our channel, is going to be Marvel Champions, and that's because this is my favorite solo game, and believe me, there are tons of great solo games out there that I enjoy playing, and I will, if we ever do the solo game category in future years, I'm not going to keep picking the same game.
Yeah,
but
right.
Well, we'll see. You're going to hold me to that now.
You'll find a way.
I'll just pick like the new pack that's released.
Yeah, exactly. It's the revised core set.
But yeah, so one of the reasons it's on this list is because it's an ever-evolving game. So even though this game did come out in 2019, if you have played it but haven't returned to it recently, or you just haven't got into it, you can get into it with some brand new packs. There's a brand new expansion that's themed around Thanos. There's, you know, brand new hero packs that come out all the time, so you can jump in and feel like you're playing with some of the newer cards that have been released. But it's just a really, really solid solo game. It feels like a really deep solo experience. So because you can do a lot of stuff even before you start playing with deck building and you know, crafting the perfect deck to tackle certain scenarios, it feels like you're spending so much time not even in the game aspect of it, that even when you get to the game, you feel like you've already had all this fulfillment by what you've been doing. And then the game itself is obviously super fun, and it's one of those solo games that it's not just a solo game. So if you are really enjoying it as a solo gamer, but then all of a sudden your friends see you playing and they want to join in, you don't have to, like, you know, be like, oh, I'll lend it to you or whatever. They can come over and they can join the fun, and it basically scales perfectly for different player counts. So fantastic game. I don't even really need to say anything more about it. Like, I cover this to no end on the channel, but I just think it's a really solid solo game. And around the holidays, I personally got into Marvel Champions last holidays, so this is like my holiday gift to myself. So now I'm basically passing it on to you guys and saying you should definitely buy this for yourself as a holiday gift, or convince someone else to do it for you.
And the timing is really good because, you know, throughout the year, if we were doing like just a solo game recommendations list, obviously it's already a great recommendation. But over the holidays, you mentioned that you can just be like constructing decks on the side. Like you can be just like, if you have a lot of time off for the holidays, you can just be like watching TV, you know, doing whatever else, and just building your decks like in your kind of free time too. So totally. Yeah, it's an awesome pick for a solo game. Lots
of range on it, so that's Marvel Champions. That's my solo game pick.
All right, and mine is going to be a little wallet-sized game called Sprawlopolis. This is published by Button Shy Games. I'm just going to show you real quick. It comes in one of these little wallet sleeves. There's basically 18 cards that are double-sided with a tiny little rule book. I covered this on the channel a little while ago. In a video comparing Sprawlopolis to Agropolis. This is not going to stand up properly. And there we go.
Hey, you got it.
And so yeah, basically you can carry it in your wallet. It's the double-sided cards. Basically you have on one side you've got these little like scoring condition cards, and on the other side you've got these little city cards that have different like sections to them, and all you're going to do is you're going to pick 3 cards at random and set them face up on the scoring side, and they're going to determine how you're trying to, what your goals are for the game, what your objectives are, how you're going to score your points, and then you're going to use the opposite side of the other 15 cards and lay them out in some sort of of a grid or pattern that's going to basically score your city. It's a really cool game. It actually plays 1 to 4 players, but as I mentioned when I kind of reviewed it, I think it works best as a solo game because like it scales up and it's cooperative. Like there is one expansion where you can play it competitively, but the cooperative aspect, you're kind of passing cards back and forth and you're sitting there deciding together what to put out on the board. But I think because it's such a difficult game to score well, and like playing solo, it plays like it's quickest solo, I think, and it's the ideal game. Like you can play it on your lunch break, you can play it like, could apply to one of those other, one of the previous category too, like your morning game. You can play this over a cup of coffee. It's just a really quick but really satisfying game. It's one of those games that I always say like does so much with so little. Like it's the bang for your buck, and for the size of the game, like it takes up no space. Yeah, I just think it's an excellent solo game that can be enjoyed by pretty much anyone.
Yeah, what I like about this too is like I think back to when you know, I was a teenager, or like, you know, still living at home in my, you know, 18, 19 and things like that. And when I would go to, you know, like for a lot of families, you know, around the holidays, say, let's say you start at home and you start like, you know, you open presents there or whatever, and then have breakfast, and then sometimes you'll usually be traveling somewhere else, and wherever you're going, it could be a family gathering where you might open some presents, but everyone might be doing their own thing for a little bit. There might be a dinner, and then everyone kind of watches TV, whatever. I was the type of kid that, you know, like if I opened a Lego set or a new DS game or Game Boy game or whatever, you know, that's something I'd be bringing with me to some of these things with lots of adults, and I'd be sitting there just sort of like enjoying them on my own, right?
Yeah,
this with its size is so easy to just be one of those things that you throw in if you got it, say, as a gift for the holidays, and say like, you know, I'm gonna just on the coffee table, on the dining room table, I'm just gonna play this game, and for sure people are gonna come check it out and everything like that. But it's just one of those things you can do on yourself. It's easy to bring along with you, and I'm tying this obviously to the holidays, but in any kind of gathering, whatever, it just fits that mold really well if it's not like already happening for like, you know, your morning coffee or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Or so yeah, sometimes you just need a break from the gathering. You just need to like go to another room or something, like play a little 15-minute card game or whatever. So yeah, that is Sprawlopolis.
Nice. All right, next pick. This is our kind of like first family game category, and this is for the family who games together. So we're thinking of this one more so as the family that has younger kids. You know, doesn't have to be like, you know, super young, but just the younger audience that might want something that's a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, or they're newer to games, but not like
exactly. And so my pick for that is going to be Bees. And so Bees is a game we've covered on our channel. We have a how to play on it. This is a really beautiful game on the table, and it has sort of that like bouncy, colorful look to it, which the art style and the way it looks on the table is already going to be attractive to a younger audience. The rule set is really, really simple. There's a couple complexities in it when it comes to strategy, but again, if you're playing with your kids, you're not going in there being like, I'm going to crush my kids in a game, right? Like, I mean, like,
you underestimate some gamers out there. There's some people who do not take it easy on their kids.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. But I'm thinking like,
I don't know if these words crush them, but still, some people want to win.
But like, I guess what I meant is that like there is when I played this in the past with people, like as we got familiar with the strategies, there was this like, you know, I'm going to block them from doing this, or I'm going to do this, and this is going to get me the win. You can for sure approach it that way, but from a kid's perspective, they're not going to necessarily always see these strategies, and it's not going to deter them from playing. It's not a game where you have to be diving into the strategy that much. It's very accessible. It's fun. The little bees icons will be fun for kids to play with. And there is enough depth there that I think the adults that are playing, it's not going to feel like they're just like, oh, we're doing this for the kids. You know, it's a game we're playing until we get to play our games later. Like, you're going to actually have enjoyment out of it. And that's important to me, because I know that, like, I've heard from a lot of people that I know that have kids, or I remember when I was growing up and stuff, a lot of times there's this, like, thought that, like, you know, you have to play certain games with your kids or watch certain things like you have no interest in whatsoever, but you're doing it for them, which is absolutely true. But it's nice when you can like go and see those like Pixar movies that have enough like you know, humor for the adults and everything at the same time. So I feel like Bees is a good mix of like, you're gonna have fun playing it as an adult, but your kids are gonna enjoy it for a lot of reasons, even if those reasons are a little bit different. So
for sure.
Yeah. So that
I was just gonna say I haven't actually played this one yet, and I can't remember from when I watched your how to play video, but is there like, there's not a lot of like negative player interaction, right? Like it's like a family-friendly game too in that sense. Like you can't like there's competition for spots kind of thing, but you can't like attack people or block them or
nothing overly direct like that I'm remembering. It's been a while since I played it too, but nothing that like is blatantly like I'm going to, you know, screw over this person kind of thing or whatever. Like, nothing like that.
And that's what you want from a family game.
Yeah, if anything, it's mostly just like you said, like vying for different positions. And all that being said, it's like there's usually multiple ways you can be going and doing things differently.
Cool. So, yeah, this is one I still want to try.
Yeah, so it's a really good game, really accessible, and I think that there'll be some families that'll definitely enjoy it over the holidays. That's
cool.
Bees.
Nice pick.
Thanks.
All right, and my pick for the sort of first family game category here is Via Magica. So this is designed by Paolo Mori, published by Huracan Games, and this is basically, I think you referred to it best when you did your how to play video, that's basically supercharged bingo.
Yeah.
So everyone has these cards. I'll just show you the back of the box. You have these cards that they're called portals, and there's basically a bag of chips that all represent different elements like air, fire, water, whatever, and basically you just pull a chip out of the bag and announce it, and let's say it's fire, and everyone at the table gets to put one of their crystals on one of their cards that has a fire symbol. And you just keep going around the table, taking turns pulling a chip, everyone places, and you're trying to fill up the symbols on your cards to complete these portals. Throughout the game, you're drawing more of these cards, and yeah, it's a really simple game to learn. Like, it only takes maybe a couple minutes to learn. It is also on Board Game Arena in case anyone wants to try it out before going and buying it. It plays, what is it, 2 to 6 players? Yeah, 2 to 6 players in about half an hour. It's such a quick, easy game to pick up, and similar to Bees, you can't like attack other players. It's not like you can choose which resources come out so the other players don't get the ones they want. Like, there is a decent amount of randomness. Like, it's not one of those games where, you know, the person who's like best at the game is going to win all the time. So I think it's good to have these kinds of games when you play with kids so that like kind of everyone has a chance to win. It plays quickly, and even when like I've never seen an issue with like someone losing by a lot in this game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, the points are always like relatively close to, because you're always doing something. You're almost always adding something to one of your cards and stuff. And even just the way the artwork is like kind of, I don't know what the right word would be here, kind of like bubbly. It's very very colorful,
you see the characters on it, and almost like you could see this being like a movie. Like the characters all feel like they're pulled out of a kid's movie, or as
for sure,
is, right?
For sure, absolutely. Yeah, not much else to say about it. I just think between the scaling player count and kind of how friendly and easy to play it is, I think Via Magica is a great game. One that we've played, even not as a fan, like even just with our more experienced gamer friends. We've played this online quite a few times, and everyone enjoys it. But it is still definitely kid friendly. So yeah, that's Via Magica.
This is a really, really good pick. This was it was literally between this and Bees for me, but I was pretty sure you were going to pick this one. I just wanted to represent it in some way. But yeah, in terms of not only accessibility, not only the look, but like you said, like as adults playing it, we had such a good time. So like you're gonna have fun with your kids, but like I remember playing bingo growing up. Like every kid has played bingo. It's a really accessible game. This basically just takes that and at the same time it even functions as a way of like taking a concept that kids are already potentially familiar with and upping it just a little bit to maybe turn them into gamers one day, kind of thing, right?
Definitely.
So on so many levels, this is just a great game to consider if you have kids and you want to play a game around the table, around the living room, whatever. Like I think this would be a really big hit with a lot of families. Probably already is.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
great game. Via Magica.
Nice. Continuing our family game trend, this is for the family with budding gaming enthusiasts, which we both agreed was going to be hard to say, but I think I did okay.
You nailed it.
So this is for families that have some kids that are probably older or just are really starting to want to get into board gaming more, wanting to get into the strategy more, and potentially spend some more time, with specific games and like really honing their skills on it.
It's for the families that are tired of Bees and Via Magica.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they want the next step up.
They're like, how quick can I get my kid to playing Feast for Odin effectively?
Yeah, you found a way to mention it.
Yeah.
You just, I wondered, but you had to find a way.
So my pick for this one is going to be a game that came out called Cubitos. So I almost picked, I prefer Quacks of Quedlinburg a little bit more than Cubitos. They're very similar games, but the reason I'm picking this one is from a family perspective. I think this is probably an easier game to if you're looking to have your kids or your older kids get into gaming just a little bit more and dive into strategy a little more. This is a bit more of an inviting theme and more of a fun theme, I think, with the race element that is just something that'll resonate with a lot of kids, whether they're 10, 11, 12, or in their teens, whatever the case may be. But basically, it is a push your luck game. So if you're familiar with Quacks of Quedlinburg, that one is a bag builder and has you pulling things out of a bag. This one is basically revolving around dice. There's going to be dice of all different colors. They're each going to have their own different abilities tied to those dice, and you're basically trying to use them most effectively and push your luck to see how many you're going to get access to before you bust to be able to move around the board in different ways. And there's tons of flexibility and variety in here because every color of die has several different powers that you can play with. So another reason I picked this game is because I think a great, a gateway game is going to function for anyone, is going to function successfully when it's going to be played over and over again because people are going to, develop strategies and keys to success with that game, and that's going to kind of shape their gaming tendencies with other games, realizing like, hey, I got really into this and I developed a strategy, I want to do that for another game, right? So I feel like you're going to be picking a game that you're going to play as a family often, and I think that if you're playing Kabuto's often, you can keep switching those powers out, and you can feel like it's a little bit of a different game every time. I think kids will like being like, oh, like what is this dice going to do now, or whatever the case may be, right? So there's just a lot of things working in its favor, I think, to having it hit all the right chords with people that are looking to take that next step in gaming. And just, again, it's just a really fun game. Like, even and you could use this as almost like a stepping stone and say like, hey, after you're really successful with this, I think the Quacks is just one little tiny notch up, because it's a little bit more mature theme, and the bag builder is a little bit something else to wrap your head around. But you can migrate or promote yourself from this to Quacks of Quedlinburg, and then start scaling up to different games as well. So I think on a lot of different levels it functions, but it also just has a really, really great theme and presence as well.
Yeah, and all the different colored dice. It's a really, really nice looking game. I should mention quickly, just on the topic of family games, like on the box here it says 14 plus, but if you're going to look for these family games, don't really pay too much attention to what it says on the box, because a lot of the time that just has to do with like the company would have to pay a lot more money to get it approved for lower age based on the testing of the components. Like it's something we're not really going to get all into it, but like I could see people much younger, you probably like 8-10-year-olds could probably be playing this, so like don't pay too much attention to that if you're looking to buy a family game like this, I would say.
And because it's also a game we're talking about like taking that next step, I think with a lot of games, we should do one day we're going to do a video about like all the games that have the wrong age list on it. We've gotten into this before. We look at it and we're like, how is this game like for an older crowd than this game? Like it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I think it's more so just like when you're going to get someone into that next step, there are going to be things that are a little, I don't want to say uncomfortable for someone, but it's going to be out of their comfort zone a little bit and having to wrap your head around more. But that's sort of like that's what a gateway game is. It's saying like, here's something else a game can do, or here's the next step it's going to take. And I think that this will do that for a lot of people. And you might find that it might not be the right time to introduce it to someone in your family or one of your kids or something, but they might be like, hey, like they got this aspect of it, and it'll be soon. But I think eventually it's going to function really well as that sort of like next step family game. Yeah, and it kind of doubles as a life lesson as well, because there's a decent amount of luck in here. Sometimes you just have terrible luck, and you just well, kids, sorry, that's the way life is sometimes. Yeah. When you and me played, you had wild luck. Not like
no, I had really good luck. I remember you had terrible luck. I kept rolling like everything I needed on those dice, and I felt a little bit guilty, but also like you're an adult, you can handle it.
Introduce this to your kid when they're 12, and by the time they're 17, you can reveal to them this is basically what life's like. One day you're just going to get completely obliterated by life, and it's just that's where the cookie crumbles. That's Kabuto's.
Nice. All right, and my pick for the sort of next step up family game here is Tiny Towns. This is published by AEG. Plays 1 to 6 players, about 45 minutes. This is an awesome little game. It's honestly, this came out a couple years ago, and it's probably one of the games I've played most in my collection, just because of how many different people like playing it. Again, the scaling player count, like it's really good at all player counts, probably best around 3, 4, 5, but basically you've got, I'm going to flip this around here, you've got this little board, it's a 4x4 grid, 16 spaces, and it also has no downtime, because everyone's playing, like you don't get turns basically. Well, every round someone is the master builder and you call a resource. So let's say I say brick, everyone has to take a brick and put it somewhere on their board. Then you pass the little first player hammer, the next person will say like stone, everyone takes a stone. And you're taking these resources, putting them on your board, and then you're removing those resources to create buildings that require certain resources in certain shapes, kind of like the polyominoes. And it has a bit in common actually with Kabuto's, because Kabuto's has the dice setup that you can do where there's going to be different dice available, and that's going to dictate your strategy every game, is figuring out which combinations of dice to get. And in here, it's the different cards that represent the buildings. Like there's, I think in the base game there's 4 or 6 buildings for every color, and you're putting out a different combination, and that determines what your scoring goals are going to be for the game. So it's this really fun spatial puzzle where, and there's the interaction where you can call a resource just knowing that it's not good for other players, and people can be like, stop calling brick, I don't want any more brick. And you're like, well, you just pretend it's just for, I need brick, what can I say? Meanwhile, like, other people don't need the brick. So it has that really good player interaction without being like directly mean. You're not like destroying someone's stuff. It's a really tough, puzzly game, but you're all doing your own little thing on your board, and it's just like the replay value with the different combination of buildings, and the fact that you can like play it solo, and I don't know, I love this game. I think it's I don't know if underrated is right to say, because there are a lot of people who like it, but I think there's a lot of maybe more advanced gamers who dismiss it because of the artwork.
Right.
And I would hate for a family that's looking for that next step to think like, oh, this is another like, oh, look at the pretty artwork. It's another like, it's too simple for us. Like it's definitely not. It's simple to learn. You can learn it the rules in like 5 minutes. But I think there's a lot of replay value here. And yeah, it's a game that I've played more than 20 times already, and I'm still happy to play it like any day, basically.
Yeah, I've only played this a handful of times, like enough to like know I really enjoy it. But it's one I always think about. Like I would absolutely never turn down a game of it because I've had such a great time playing with it, and because like you mentioned with the variety on it, there's ways I haven't experienced hometowns because of the buildings or whatever it is that you can flip out each game kind of thing. Yeah. So there's new ways I can experience it. This is another great pick in terms of like taking the next step. It's inviting, but yet there's enough like that's another thing I guess I didn't mention. It's not so much of a thing in Cubitos, but it's more so here. Is that next step is almost like we joked about like you don't want to just completely destroy your kids in the game, but like I think when you're taking that next step, you have to like have that that lesson like there is this strategy you have to learn, and these games do get a little bit more feisty, and you have to like you be a little bit more I don't even know what the right word is, but just like you don't want to be mean to each other, but in a way you have to like block someone from doing something. You have to like call Brick up multiple times, like
make people pay for their mistakes, kind of thing,
and be okay with that. So I think that this is a game that, with its inviting theme, like you said, people might not expect that, but it has that aspect of it. And I think it's going to like ease people into that understanding.
For sure.
Yeah, great thing.
And that is Tiny Towns.
Okay, and so our next category is a really fun one. This is for when you secretly want to buy yourself a gift. Now, this is there is some method here to our madness, and that is where we approach this as when you have, like, say, a partner that you live with or a roommate, someone that you're going to be around a lot of the time. And so buying them a gift is basically, or buying them a board game as a gift is basically saying, I'm the one that's going to most often be playing this with you, right? So we tried to pick games that you might want to play multiple times for different reasons. And now this person, if they choose to play with you, is going to be you're like, hey, as a secondary bonus, I am now going to experience this game as much as you are. So that is why you're secretly buying the gift for yourself. And so my pick for this is My City. And this is my pick because this is a legacy style polyomino game, so it's a really easy game to get into and really easy game to learn. Like the rules, the bare bones rules that you start with are so ridiculously simple that you can teach this to almost anyone, even someone who's not super familiar with games. You're basically just flipping a card over, whatever piece is listed there, that's the piece you have to place on your board, and those rules will expand. There are nuances and it will get more complicated, but the starting point is very, very, friendly to any kind of gamer. But because it's a legacy style game, you're going to want to play this. I think it's 24 times. So there's 24 sessions you're going to be playing with this. So if you buy this for your roommate or for your partner and they're going to be playing with you, you basically bought yourself 24 sessions of a game that basically the gift kind of does end up being for you. But it's also, again, it's not one of those things where I would hope not. If I was living with a roommate and I bought this for my roommate, I don't think they'd be mad at me because they're going to get just as much enjoyment out of it as I am. It just so happens that I get to experience as well. But yeah, it's a really great game. It's we've talked a lot about how much we were surprised by it, how much we loved it. Like Reiner Knizia takes this really simple concept and slowly expands on it and slowly builds on it until it has not crazy complexity, but like enough complexity to just be like you're sitting there going, how did he come up with this, and how are we changing this, and now and I just wrapped my head around this, and now we're doing this, and you keep putting stickers on the board and opening envelopes. Like, it's a very exciting game to play. I feel like if you live with someone and you're going to be constantly coming back to it, you're going to find that like very often whenever you guys have a free night, you're going to be saying, well, let's just keep going with our My City campaign. You might blitz through it in a week or two because you're just having so much fun with it. I know that our friend Braden, when he introduced this to his wife, it quickly became like his wife's favorite game. And I think that they would sit down and play multiple sessions at once. You and me would sit down and play multiple sessions at once. It wouldn't just be like, we're going to play one game of My City. We play like 3 or 4 games of My City. Definitely. So yeah,
because they come in envelopes. Each one is a chapter with 3 scenarios. So you're usually going to play 3 games at once at least. Right?
Yeah. So this is a really solid game in for many categories and for many different varieties of gifts over the holidays. But specifically, if you're wanting to buy something that is also going to be for yourself, you can't really go wrong with a legacy game where people have to keep bringing you back for it. So,
yeah, nice pick.
It's My City.
Nice pick. Great game. It made both of our top games of 2020 lists. So.
Phenomenal game. Yeah.
All right, and my pick is also a game from 2020, and that is Micro Macro Crime City. So this plays 1 to 4 players. It's published by Pegasus Spiel, and it's basically it's often been described as basically like Where's Waldo with like solving cases, like detectives. So you basically have this, the game is basically just a giant black and white map with the layout of a city and different people all over the place, and you have these 16 envelopes. Each one is like its own case, and it'll start off by giving you like a clue, or say like this person was killed on this side of town and go find them. And then there's other cards that come into play that give you clues or ask you, you know, where did they come from, or who killed them, or how did they die, or whatever. And you're basically backtracking and looking around because they're different moments in time. So you're going to find that person somewhere else, and oh, they came from this store. What were they doing in there? Oh, they were at that stand buying this thing, and oh, or they live over here on this side of town, or they were wearing this thing, so they came from this event. Or you're trying to piece it together. So you really feel like a detective, and the way that each mission is kind of laid out, like you learn about little parts of the city. It's like there's a lot of like story that goes on, or narrative over time, because you kind of see like certain recurring characters, or you remember a place from a previous mission, so that helps you figure something out on a future one. And the reason I have this in this category is that I know a lot of people have been maybe hesitant to buy this game because it's one of those games where once you've played it, you know it. Like, I'm probably not going to go back and play this like maybe 5-10 years from now or whatever, but like, you know, I will have remembered, I've already solved these cases. So some people don't want to buy a game that they then just like put back on their shelf and it just sits there unplayed. So buying it for someone else is like, they don't have to worry about buying it for themselves, but also if you buy it for them and you play it with them, then you also got to play it without feeling like you spent money on a game for yourself.
You don't have to have that moment where you look at it on your shelf and like, oh, I'll never play this game. It's on someone else's shelf.
Exactly. It's like you're doing the person a favor because they might have not have bought it for themselves, but also you get to like sneakily play it yourself with them. I would say it works best as a 2-player game. We've talked about this on the channel before. I won't mention too much more about it. But and there's also Micro Macro Crime City Full House, which just hit stores as well. That's the second one, and that one actually has some people mention that there's some kind of like I don't know what you want to call it, like not gruesome, but there's some like questionable themes, or like, you know, there's some nudity, there's some things that you might not want to, like, if you're buying it for like a family to play with their kids or whatever. The second one, Full House, comes with little indicators on every case that show like what type of themes are in there in case you want to avoid certain topics or whatever. But yeah, Micro Macro, I can't say enough good things about it. It's such a unique experience, and it's like such a good holiday game too, because you just put out this map and it's just like a relaxing, like kind of puzzly case to solve, ideally with someone, but you can play it solo as well. It's a great game.
Yeah, I think you were saying you were almost. I think you and your wife are almost done with it, and I'm going to be able to get to Bora.
Yes, we just finished. There's a couple of the Easter egg missions in the inside that we have to do before I hand it over to you, but absolutely, it's coming your way any day now.
Yeah, I can't wait. I played the. They had an online like tutorial mission you could do. I don't know if it's still up now, but just sort of introduce you to how the game plays. And I played that, and I realized that right away I was going to enjoy it. So I'm really excited to get my hands on it and play through the entire thing myself. So
yeah, awesome game.
Awesome.
That is Micro Macro Crime City.
All right, next category is the gift for when accessibility is paramount. So this category is the one we wanted to include because obviously there's a whole variety of gamers out there, or people getting into gaming, and there's a ton of different accessibility requirements that people have. There's no way we can cover all of them here, and you know, it would be irresponsible of us to be like, hey, this game covers everything. Like, there's no way we can do that, right? So what we tried to do is we each picked a game, and we picked one that highlights, you know, certain accessibility requirements that we think are going to be better, like with this game over potentially others, or just for someone who has certain accessibility needs. Obviously, there's going to be some people that these specific games, it's just not going to work for them as well. So we're not saying this will cover every base, but we'll highlight a couple here, and I think we're going to try to do this category every year or something in this vein, because there's so many games that we would love to highlight from an accessibility standpoint. And if you know any that you specifically are buying this holiday season for someone who has accessibility requirements, or for yourself, let us know in the comments, because we would love to have that highlighted in the comments. We'll upvote it. We'll try to make sure that people see them and bring attention to them, and then we can consider those for other years as well.
Yeah, or if you have questions, you have a suggestion, or you know, you want a recommendation for a need that we didn't cover, absolutely drop a comment below and ask us, and we'll look up some games, or we'll look through our collections and see if we can find another suggestion for you.
Yeah. So my pick for this category is a game called On Tour. Now, On Tour, I'm picking this game because from a visibility standpoint, obviously you'll notice right away, like or I guess you can't notice there, but here, you know what, for this one specifically, I'm going to open this up.
Yeah.
So there are these cards, and they do come in all different colors here, and the colors are definitely talking about different parts on the map, but if you happen to be colorblind or have any sort of color blindness, there's also obviously big, huge letters on them that are saying which part of the map it's for. And on the map itself, there's going to be thick black lines that designate the different quadrants of the map. So you'll be able to tell what the quadrants are, even if you can't see that color. And the dice are very, very large, and it's easy to see around the table. And it's a type of game that you actually don't really need to do all that much. Like, you don't have to. I think the way it says in the rules is that, like, you know, you keep alternating whoever is rolling the dice, but really it doesn't matter who's rolling the dice. So you could all be sitting around the couch, and whether you have visibility impairments or, you know, mobility impairments, whatever the case may be, you can sit back with your map in front of you, and someone can roll the dice at the table for everyone consistently and say these are the numbers that have been rolled, and all you're doing is basically selecting those two numbers and putting them onto your map in a specific spot. So all you really have to be able to do to play this game effectively, and I know obviously not everyone will be able to do that, but is write the numbers on the map. So from a color blindness perspective, visibility impairment perspective, there's a lot of bases that it covers that way. And I don't obviously personally have any visibility issues, and no one I know like has personally experienced that. But even when I'm sitting around the table playing this with people, I realize as I'm playing it just how accessible the game is, because it's very. I think when I've played with people, even I've just been the one rolling the dice, and someone else has kind of kicked back on the couch and just enjoyed saying, okay, the numbers are this, I'm going to write it here, because they wanted a more relaxing experience that way. So from a lot of different standpoints, it kind of checks those boxes. Again, it won't work for everyone in every situation, but I think there's enough that it covers that if that's something that is of concern to you and something you have to think about over the holidays, this is a game you might want to consider.
Yeah, nice pick. It's a great game, and it plays 1 to 8 players.
Yeah, exactly. And combinates a lot of people as well. This version specifically also has the Europe map on the back, so you get some more variety on there as well. So yeah, it even just outside the accessibility stuff, it's also just a really fun game. It's a really relaxing game, and around the holidays with a group of 8 people, everyone can kind of sit back and play without having to really feel like they need to get like really into something that's on the table. So
for sure.
Yeah, that's On Tour.
Nice pick. Very nice pick. All right, and the one I'm going to go with here is called Ink and Gold. So this edition is published by Eagle Gryphon Games. It's a game for 3 to 8 players. It says on the box 20 to 40 minutes. I think that's about right. It's basically a push your luck game where you're going into these temples. Everyone's playing like simultaneously, and basically there's a deck of cards that has like different amounts of jewels. You flip a card and it tells you how many jewels are in the temple, or if there's a hazard, like there's mummies and fire and all this kinds of stuff. And all you're doing is every time a card gets flipped, everyone has to decide, are they going to stay and basically go further into the temple, or are they going to leave? And if you leave, then when everyone reveals their decision, everyone who has left splits the rewards that are on the table. So like, let's say there's 18 gold, like gems or whatever, and 3 people leave, they'll each take 6 of those gems. And there's these artifact cards that come up and stuff, but if 2 of the same hazard come up, you basically get like killed in the temple or whatever. Plays over 5 rounds, person with the most gems at the end wins. Super simple game, and the reason I picked this is this is one of those games where if you, let's say, are hearing impaired, or you're mute, or like you basically don't need to interact verbally with anyone. You don't need to be able to hear anything. All you have to do is like look at what's out on the table, and then when it's your turn, you basically hold out your hand and you either drop your little meeple if you're staying, or you open your hand and you don't have your meeple in your hand if you want to leave the temple. And then you just have your little money hidden behind your little private screen, your little tent or whatever. So it's a very easy game to play, and it's just like, I think it's a very accommodating game for a variety of people. And again, it overcomes certain accessibility issues that I think would prevent people from playing a lot of different types of games. But and I think it's just like, regardless of your accessibility needs, it's a really fun game. Like, it's one of our favorite push your luck games. Yeah. And again, the fact that it accommodates, I didn't even realize till now that this and On Tour both play up to 8 players. Yeah. But yeah, it's a great game. It's been around for a while. Highly recommend you check it out. It's also sometimes published by another company called Diamant instead of Ink and Gold. So if you see it as Diamant, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same game. But yeah, really fun. We played this a bunch on Board Game Arena as well. Yeah. It's just a game that every time we've played it too, there's just tons of laughs. Like, it's just really hilarious, really fun game. It'll give you a lot of really good memories, especially playing with like family and stuff around the holidays or any time of the year. Yeah, great pick. Ink and Gold. All right, next category is for the person who is board game curious. So this is our sort of non-gamer category, I guess, where, you know, someone who maybe plays games casually or wants to get into board games and you're looking to buy them a gift. What is the game you want to buy for that person? The game I picked for this is
Project L. And I am picking this because I recently had experience introducing this to people who don't play games as often. I went on a road trip over the summer, and I picked this up actually on the road trip. And I introduced this to the people I was on the trip with. They don't play games nearly as often, and one of them specifically was just absolutely enthralled with the game. It's a really simple game. You just have these sort of like, I don't want to call them Tetris type pieces, but that's what I originally think of when I look at them.
Yeah.
And you basically have these cards, and it's really nice cards. Like they're like dual layered cards that have like these little indents, and you have to basically fill up the card completely to score a certain amount of points based on the way you're collecting these different like Tetris-like pieces. And there's more nuance to it in the way that you're upgrading pieces and things like that to be able to fill them. But it's really not that difficult to explain. Like again, I explain this to people that don't play games all that often, and we didn't really have many issues.
Like I'm pretty sure the rules are literally 2 pages.
Yeah, it's very, very, but even beyond the base rules, what I found most interesting is that we played 2 or 3 times back to back, and even after that very first game, as soon as we played the second game, everyone on the table all of a sudden grasped the strategy even more so than me. I got completely crushed by someone, or not completely crushed, but like to the point where like they just had a really solid game because they just understood the strategy after playing that one time. So all of a sudden they just upgraded themselves from just like playing casually as someone who doesn't play games as much, all of a sudden taking strategic turns and making strategic like and tactical decisions.
It's funny because right on the back it literally says easy to learn, hard to master. Like it's literally in a game of efficiency. It's so simple, but like it's tough to do really well, and there's a lot of room to get much better at the game. Yeah,
I think this is a really cool game to introduce to people who are looking to get into games, or that are just wanting to have a game, like maybe 1 or 2 games in their collection to start testing the waters with it. It's easy to teach to a variety of different age groups. It'll just be a really good starting game for a lot of different people, and it's like the pieces and the cards are just really fun to play and handle as well. So
yeah, I've only tried this once so far, and it was solo. And even solo, like again, if it's someone who's just getting into games and they don't have any games yet, like it's a great game to have at home too in case they want to play solo. It works surprisingly well with the little like bot player or whatever. But that's a great pick.
Yeah, that's Project L.
All right, and my pick for this category is a game called Blue Lagoon. This is published by Blue Orange Games, designed by probably my favorite designer, Rainer Knizia. You might have heard me talk about this game on the channel before. It's basically, so the reason I picked this is there's a couple reasons here. First off, for someone who's just getting into games, it's a good game. Like, it's one of the least expensive games that is still a board game, that has a board that isn't just like cards or chips or whatever. And the other thing is, it basically teaches you a lot of different types of mechanisms that are in a lot of different board games. So it's another one of these games, we've talked about a lot of these that have just like a few pages. I think there's 3 or 4 pages of rules. It plays over 2 phases where you're basically exploring an island. You have these little tokens, and all you do on your turn is you place one of your little tiles on the map, and then the next person goes and they place a tile. That's literally all you're doing, other than if you place your tile on a resource, you pick up that resource. But you're trying to, there's like, I'll show you the back of the box here. I'll show them this way. But you basically have this map, and there's the different land spots. There's 8 little islands, and then there's all the water that runs between them. And you're basically starting up on the water and then spreading out onto land. And then in the second phase, the huts that you put out in the first phase are going to stay there. And then in the second phase, you're going to be building out from the huts. So, and then at the end of the game, you're scoring on all kinds of stuff. There's like your route building. So you're trying to stay connected and connect to as many islands as you can. There's there's like set collection by gathering resources of the same type. But then they're also incentivizing you to diversify, because if you get one of each resource, you also score a bonus for that. Then there's area majority, where you want to have the most of something on an island. It's just like there's so many different aspects of the board game industry that you'll see in this game, and yet it plays in average, I would say, 45 minutes. It's for 2 to 4 players. It has that kind of like, people always say it's like Moana, like the movie, the artwork kind of looks like it. And I know, again, this is one of those games I think some people will dismiss because it kind of looks like maybe a kid's game or something, but it can actually be pretty cutthroat. You can be cutting people off, taking their resources, beating people out for a majority on an island. So I think it's a game that has a lot of replay value and has a lot of interesting stuff going on, but with a very, very simple rule set. And again, I think it's like a $32 game or something. But yeah, Blue Lagoon, this is one of my favorite tile laying games, honestly. It's one I'm happy to play, and I don't think this will ever leave my collection.
Yeah, it's a great game. I'm not even going to try to say anything else, but I think you covered it all really great. I love it. So the only thing I'm going to say is I'm going to give you a little insight into Carlo's strategy with board games here, because I've played this with Carlo a few times, but they've been spaced apart, and so every time I forget the previous play, but I've made a point of the last one to remember, because I noticed with a couple games that Carlo sometimes will have a strategy that, or one aspect, not I shouldn't even say strategy, when games have multiple scoring types, then you can't focus on all of them. He'll tend to go towards one and do that one really well and better than everyone else at the table. But if no one stops him, he just, every time we play, he tends to do that. And I've realized that every time I play Blue Lagoon with you, Carlo, that the route building where you have to connect all the things, you do this unbelievable route building that I never stop you and no one seems to stop you at the table. And the last time it happened, I was like, God, here he goes again. I'm like, and it's too late. Like, there's nothing I can do about it now. So I've made this mental note the next time I play with Blue Lagoon, I'm going to make sure, because I don't want to bring it up again, but I remember looking back at our scoring pads in Feast for Odin one time, and I remember looking back, and there was always like a certain category that you just crushed us on. And I was like, I need to like review these pads.
I think it was the extra islands. I think it was taking the extra boards or something.
I need to like review these.
Trying to expand. Yeah.
I need to review these and be like, I know exactly what Carlo's going to do here. So with Blue Lagoon, if you're ever going to play Blue Lagoon with Carlo at a convention or something, just know he's going to try to build this amazing route. As soon as you block him, he's going to be a little stranded. So
noted, and I will be anticipating
adapting
that.
Your strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the heads up. Yeah. No, absolutely. If you can chain together a whole bunch of islands, it can be very, very lucrative. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, great pick.
Yeah, thanks, Blue Lagoon.
All right, next category is for those large gatherings around the holidays. So this is kind of like our party game category, where we're thinking when you're going to have a lot of people together over the holidays or at a birthday or whatever the case may be, and you just want a game that it doesn't matter what everyone's skill level is, what their involvement with games is. It's just something that almost anyone, if not everyone, can play. So my pick for that category is a game that is pretty popular and I'm sure you guys have heard of, and that's called Just One. This is a game that I have played multiple different settings. Now I know you own it, so I played it with you and our group of friends, but I've also played it at a work function. I've played it with other people as well, and every single setting has had a completely different variety of gamers, especially when we played it at our work function. We went to a gaming cafe here, and there was like, I was obviously the one who played board games the most there. I shouldn't say obviously, but like in my work office, I just
obvious. Who plays as many games as me?
But I was definitely the board gamer of our work environment there. And
no one else at your work has a YouTube channel?
No, unless they do it, just I don't know about it. But yeah, so there was just a wide variety of like different comfort level with games, and it's just one that anyone can get into, but everyone had an absolute blast playing, and I've had people still refer back to that saying, hey, we should go back to Across the Board for a team building thing, and we should play that game that you introduced to us that one time. It's just a really easy game to wrap your head around. It's all you have to do is writing down a word or like a clue on this little pad and revealing it, but the aspect of having to figure out clues that other people aren't going to come up with, because if you guys both say the same clue, those clues are eliminated, is just this really fun thing. And it's again one of those games that you also don't have to really track points. I think like you absolutely can, but even when we did the team building thing at work, it was more about just like everyone having some fun, introducing some new employees and things like that, and just trying to have the most fun you possibly can, rather than being like who's winning in this game kind of thing. It's a great game. Carlo owns this copy, but it's one that I'm hoping to get for myself. Just the same thing with the pick Carlo's going to get to here, because it's really great for when you have a group of people come over and you don't have to start thinking like, well, what's the player count, and also like what's everyone's comfort level with games here. This is one of those games where you can just be like, oh, it doesn't matter who's coming over, just bring out just one. Everyone's going to enjoy it at some level.
And it says it goes up to 7, but one time we actually played it with like 8 or 9 or 10, and we just got out like another whiteboard that you can write on, because like it doesn't really matter again, especially if you're not like playing for points to go against the recommended scoring objectives that they have or whatever. But it's a great game. I really like it.
That's Just One.
And my pick for this category of party game is a game called Monstrosity. This is published by Deepwater Games. This is a fairly new game. This is maybe the most, I can't speak for you, but for me, this is probably the most I've ever laughed playing a board game before. It goes up to how many players? 8, it says on here. The basic idea is there's 100 of these monster cards. They're all completely like monsters that you could never even imagine what they look like. There's tons of different artists who did the artwork in the game, and the idea is on your turn, you take one of these monster cards, everyone else has a whiteboard, you have 20 seconds to look at this card, memorize as many details as you can, then you put the card down and you have exactly 2 minutes to describe the monster to everyone else. You can't use your hands to like describe how anything looks, you just have to use your words. People can interrupt you and ask you questions about like, does this monster have arms, or how many eyes does it have, what's on its head, whatever. And then basically when the 2-minute timer's up, everyone's gonna reveal their drawings, and you're going to be picking what you think is the best one. And what I love about this game is, first off, it kind of transcends like drawing ability as well as age, because it doesn't really matter like just how well you can draw. Like there's other ways you get points for being like a credible eyewitness, how well you describe the monster, and that kind of thing, how well you remembered it when you look at everyone's drawings and you say, I think it would look like that one, before you flip over the card to actually compare. And a lot of the time, like this is one that you can play with people of different ages, because especially like, let's say you have, you're playing with adults and kids, and the kid is the one describing the monster, everyone's getting the same description. So even if, regardless of whether the kid is able to like use their, their vocabulary is good or not, or they're not able to describe it, or the kid's drawing, like sometimes maybe, the kid's drawing ability might be better than the adult's, or it might just be super impressive. If you're like 5-year-old drew something that looks pretty accurate, people might still vote on that anyway. And the scoring, like I've gotten last place in this game every time I play, and I'm still like the biggest advocate for playing this game all the time. There's already a couple expansions out that give you new monsters, different themes and stuff. I just think it's such a fun game, and it's another one of those ones where the scoring doesn't really matter. It says to play 2 rounds, where everyone gets to be the sketch art or the eyewitness twice, but like you can just play it as many times as you want. You can pull it out, just play a few rounds if you want. It's such a fun game.
This game is
so easy to learn.
This game is hilarious. It's such a riot. We both picked, when we talked about our picks for these categories beforehand. We both like picked this for this category. I feel like it was one of those things where like we're saying like, okay, so we're gonna have a party game category. We're both like monstrosity, like right away. Like who's gonna pick it first? Like it's so unbelievably good for such a simple concept, and like you said, anyone can play it, but I just can't imagine anyone sitting down and playing this game and not having at least a handful of moments where everyone's laughing, because anyone trying to describe these monsters is going to get caught up in their words, being like, oh my god, like what am I describing here? And then realizing like they're forgetting key components, and other people that are drawing are going to be calling out being like, but what are the eyes attached to? And you're like, what do you mean what are the eyes attached to? It's like, oh, well, I guess, they're not really on the face. They're kind of hanging off. Like, what do you mean they're hanging off?
But you can't check the card again, so it's kind of stressful.
It's one of those games that we can explain it as best as we can, but I feel like you playing it with a group of people is going to really be the testament. You're going to understand what makes this game so special.
Yeah, and it feels like one of those games that should have been designed years and years ago, right? Like it's just came out last year, and we always think like, how was this not designed sooner? Like it's just a brilliant game.
Yeah, awesome pick.
Monstrosity.
All right, the second last category we have here is one we're calling For That Someone Extra Special, and the reason behind that is basically this is going to be the category that's more like price isn't as much of an issue. It's the one you're willing to spend a little bit more on. It's the a game that is a little bit bigger, or it costs a little bit more, whatever the case may be. It's for that someone you're going to spend just a little bit extra on. So my pick, and I'm going to see if I can pick this up off the ground without making too much of a show out of it, because it's a very big box.
I can say it's bigger than I remember.
Is Title Blades.
It's deluxe edition, blocking me out of view here.
So I'm gonna put this down over here. This is the deluxe edition. The retail edition, I believe, is like half this size or something. So if you can find the deluxe edition, that would be extra special for someone, because the deluxe edition comes with absolutely phenomenal components. I'm putting this most on the list because I really love the game, and it's one of those ones that I got over the pandemic that I can't wait to start diving into with the full player counts and experiencing a lot more of, because I really, really have enjoyed my time with it. It made my best of 2020 list as well.
I still haven't tried it, but I want to.
Yeah, it's really good, but even beyond that, it's just so beautiful that it is one of those games that like you are going to feel extra special when you receive this as a gift, because it might not be the game that you're willing to splurge for on yourself for, like especially the deluxe edition, for all these really premium components and for these, this beautiful artwork and all these pieces that are going to be on the table. But I feel like this is one of those games that receiving this as a gift is going to just be like extra special for you, because of how amazing the artwork is and the table presence and everything about it. So it's really hard to explain everything that goes on in this game, but it is a worker placement style game. There's limited spots on the board, but you're basically competing in these different like fantasy tournament style competitions amongst all the characters, and it is asymmetrical, so every single character has their own deck of cards, own set of abilities, different things they specialize in. So each time you play, you can try playing with a different character, and you're going to get a bit of a different experience. And as you learn about each of the characters, you're going to, take on your opponents a little bit differently, knowing what powers they have in their arsenal, and you're never going to get access to all your cards in a game and all your abilities in a game. So next time you play, if you play with the same character, you can play it a little bit differently, have a bit of a different experience depending on how the cards come up. There's a lot of dice involved, so there's a bit of a luck factor, but it is controlled. You can upgrade those dice to get better versions that'll be more reliable. There's a whole bunch of really interesting stuff going on. This is one of those games that you sit down and is more, it's not just like, we're going to play this and then play 2 other games that night. It's either the main event, it almost is for sure the main event, or it's the only game you're playing that night. You're kind of getting together to play Tidal Blades, but you don't really regret it because it's such a memorable experience. So I put this on this list because if I open this, I would be like, man, this person really likes me. Like this is a really special gift. Yeah. And every time I look at it on my shelf, I'm just like, man, that is a beautiful game. So that is my pick. That is Tidal Blades. I know you haven't played it yet, so you probably don't have a lot to say on it, but we should try to play it over the holidays or something soon.
Definitely. I just wanted to mention, I just noticed this for the first time ever that it says art and world building by Mr. Cuddington. And it does feel like a game, even just I remember when I watched your how to play video, and it did feel like its own world that you're jumping into, these characters, these locations and everything. And it is cool. It says, I don't know if anyone noticed when you held it up, it says part 1 on the bottom, because I think they are going to make a part 2 that's a different type of game set in the same like kind of universe.
Yeah, and I think that they've released an RPG for Tidal Blades, like a tabletop RPG in the vein of like, I didn't look into it a lot, but I think it's in the vein of like, Dungeons and Dragons and those type of games, Pathfinder. They've released some sort of module or whatever that's it takes place in the world of Tidal Blades. I'd have to look into it a little bit more, but again, that just being said, that there is like this world building they want to do and expand this world. And as you play the game, you realize that it is rich with a lot of stuff. So,
right.
Yeah.
I also didn't realize it has a solo mode, 1 to 4. Yeah. I thought it was 2 to 4.
Yeah.
You haven't played it solo yet, have you?
I didn't play it solo. I played all my plays have been with 2, or did I play once with 3? I may have played once with 3, but otherwise they've all been with 2. Okay. I'm really excited to play with 4 because I feel like I just want to see what it's like without any people involved.
Those worker placement games are usually best with more.
Yeah. That is Tidal Blades. Let's see if I can get this off the table.
Yeah. That is, quite the game, quite the box.
Massive box. Oh boy, I don't know where I'm gonna put this. We're good.
All right, and my pick for this game, or for this category, is Fayum. This is by Freedom and Freeze, published by 2F Spiel. It's 1 to 5 players, so also has a solo mode. Here, I'll lay this down because it's a pretty tall one as well. And this is basically a deck building game, or deck building is at least the main mechanism, I would say. But you basically have this big board that you're all building on together, and you don't own anything that goes onto the board. Your cards allow you to do stuff like place settlements, and you're basically developing this land. There's like crocodiles and stuff on the land at the start, and everyone starts with the same cards. And then there's like, if you've played Power Grid or you're familiar with it, there's a system kind of like in Power Grid where you can buy the power plants. There's these cards out there that you can buy, and then as you buy cards, new cards come out into the market, and they cost different amounts based on how long they've been out there, or the value on the card kind of thing. And you're basically putting stuff out there that belongs to everyone. Like I build a settlement, it's not my settlement, it belongs to the land, it belongs to Fayum. But you're basically buying cards. The deck building comes into play where you buy cards from this market that go into your hand immediately, and now that card is added to your kind of arsenal that you can play throughout the game. So you're trying to buy cards that create combos throughout the game to try and, and then it's very interactive because you're playing off of what other people do. So if someone else starts building a lot of settlements, let's say, with their cards, and you have something that says you can build a city on a settlement, you might start doing that. But if someone sees that happening, they might try and shift gears and stop building settlements so that you can't just piggyback off of their stuff. So it's really interactive. You have to see what other people are doing to the landscape so that you can know what you're doing as well. Or if people build roads, then it limits where you can actually build roads. And it kind of reminds me a bit of like Century Golem in the way, and I also Concordia, which we haven't played yet, but it's that idea of you play these cards and then you have sort of like a reset or a recover, and here it's called an administration turn, where you basically spend a turn just picking up your cards again so that you can go and do that combo over again. Very cool game. We've only played it once so far as a 3-player game. And it's one I've heard that the solo mode is like okay and 2 players okay. Like it's probably best with more players. And the reason why I have it on this list is because at least in Canada here, it could be because it's an import game from Germany, but like I bought it. This was like $100 game, one of the most expensive games I bought. And I think a lot of people see that kind of price tag and think, oh, I'm not going to buy it for myself. And you look at the components. Some people don't like the kind of like older style artwork. There's a lot of, people kind of laugh sometimes at like how many of these kind of Euro games have like that beige color. And like you can see it's like beige tan. Like a lot of people I think are going to not end up buying it themselves. But I think if you buy it for someone, like there's a good chance they're really going to like the game. And because of the variety of all the cards that there are to explore for your deck building, different combos, the order they're going to come out in every game, the way the landscape's going to change, like I can see this being a game that I play over and over and over. And like I'm happy that I bought it for myself, but I could also see it just being an excellent gift for someone else.
Yeah, at the one time I've only played this the one time, but I had the exact same impression. I saw the box, and I've taught myself by now not to judge games by the cover of their box.
We all do it, though. It's tough, right?
Like, there's a lot of games I love that just don't have the most inviting box covers, but I was like, I don't know what I'm getting into. I didn't really have any expectations. I was just sitting down for a game, and I loved it. Such a fun game, and it's one I would absolutely come back to. So you're right. Receiving this as a gift is going to get this into people's hands that might not have taken the chance on it otherwise.
Yeah, so. Exactly. That was my main thinking behind it. That and the price tag. But that is Stayum.
All right, and so we have one category left, and this is sort of if you're old enough to remember going to like Blockbuster and all the different video stores, and they'd have the shelf of like the staff picks where it's like this. I resonate with this staff's picks or this person's picks, whatever. I remember there's an episode of Seinfeld with that too. This is sort of our personal picks. There's gonna be Carlo's pick and Dylan's pick, and it's not like our favorite game of all time or anything like that. It's just our pick for this holiday season of a game we want to highlight for a specific reason, and there's no real category associated with it. You can pick it for however you want. So my pick, and again I'm gonna have to see if I can reach for this one. Oh my god, this is gonna be a disaster. Okay. Is going to be Oath, Chronicles of Empire, and Exile. So this is a game that came out this year in 2021. We got it in our hands and did a review on somewhat recently in the last couple months. Oath is such an interesting experience, and one of the main reasons I'm putting this on here is because I'm thinking if I got Oath as a gift for the holidays, I feel like I'm not just, or if I gave it to someone, I'm not giving someone just the gift of a board game. I'm giving them an experience that's going to last multiple sessions, that's going to give people, them and their friends a reason to gather together and experience something multiple times that's ever changing, that you're going to want to revisit. You might be giving someone a game that they're going to experience over like 12 playthroughs over the course of like a year. Like you can play a game like this as long as you want to, and it's so interesting and unique. Like it's really hard to even just describe it. The best thing you could do is, if you're wanting to learn more, is go watch our review or other people's videos and go find out for yourself what makes it so unique. But there's just so many different keys to victory, different ways to pick and paths to victory. The cards that are in each game are ever changing. After each game, new cards are going to get added in. The components are gorgeous. The mat is beautiful. Like it's just, in so many ways, it's enjoyable to handle the components and play, and it's interesting to try to navigate your way to victory, and the stories that you're crafting afterwards.
That's the best part, is the memories it creates.
You're going to create these memories that are unique to the person you bought it for, that anyone else who played Oath is going to have completely different memories. So you're buying someone an experience that you can't quite get out of any other board game in this exact way. And so I feel like it's a very unique game to buy for someone. If you have that person that you're looking for a gift for that loves to gather with friends, loves to play, maybe already plays games like Gloomhaven, for instance, or plays Dungeons and Dragons, or just really likes to have board gaming nights, but is constantly wanting a game that they can just gravitate towards and really refine the strategy and get played to the meta and stuff.
Yeah, and just explore the ins and outs.
Yeah, like you'll craft a story over a long period of time, and you'll give them memories that they'll probably have forever, and they'll be written in a journal that they can look back on. So there's a lot of reasons I put this here, but for 2021, this is my personal pick, and I just think the more people that experience this game, it might not be a game that you keep forever, you play forever, but I think it's a game that a lot of people need to experience just to see the potential that board games really have and what the far reaches are that it can go to. So,
for sure. It's kind of a mind-bending game, too, when you just sit there looking at all the different places on the board and trying to figure out, like, how can I win this? How can I get out of this tough situation? Like, can I try to ally with someone? Can I switch my positioning on the board? Like, there's so much to think about when you're playing. It's just such a, it just shows you so many things you've never seen in games. Our review was literally called the most interesting game we've played, and it's been a while since we played now, but I think I still stand by that, no question. Yeah. And I like that it's a game that you can play over and over with the same group, but it doesn't have that requirement. It's not a legacy game where you're like, oh, so-and-so can't make it, so we can't play. Like, doesn't matter. Bring someone else in, play with one fewer player that time. Yeah, it's such a great game.
Yep, that is my personal pick. That is Oath.
All right, and my personal pick is Modern Art. So this is a newer version. This originally came out in 1993, I believe. This one's published by Simon Games. Another one designed by, again, the Dr. Rainer Knizia. And this is probably like a $30-$35 game. The reason I picked this, it's 3 to 5 players. So the one thing I'll mention is like there is no 2-player option. But if I had to just recommend one game, like there's other games that I might like more, I might have played more throughout my life, but these days if someone asks me like what's one game you'd recommend that I try, I almost always suggest Modern Art, and there's a few reasons. First off, if you're not into the hobby or you haven't played a lot of board games, it's a very like easy game to learn. It's only a few pages of rules. It plays in like, what is it? It says an hour, but you can play it probably in 45 minutes once you know the rules.
Yeah.
Super easy to learn. But there's a lot of people, okay, so myself included, I knew about this game for years and like I saw it on sale and stuff. I never really took a chance on it. I don't know if it was just like the art theme was just like, I don't need to play a game about art. It didn't seem super interesting, but it's an auction game and you basically have a hand of cards and each card is a painting and they're off after like real artists. And all you're doing on your turn is you play a card and that's a painting that you're putting up for auction, and the other players around the table are going to bid, and there's different types of auctions, so you're teaching people, you're getting to learn about all the different types of auctions that you'll see in board games, whether it's like an open auction where you can just bid whatever you want, there's like the hidden bid where you have an amount of money in your hand and you reveal kind of thing, and then it also simulates the art industry where people's art can be worth more or less money because they're kind of like what's it called, like they're popular or not kind of thing. They go out of fashion. It's such an, and it to me does like very similar to Oath. It does what I think we're all looking, maybe I shouldn't speak for everyone, but I know you and I are looking for most when we play games, is like that interaction where you're looking at other people across the table, you're laughing, there's a bit of trash talking, there's like there's just, it's such an interactive, fun game to play with people. Every time I play it, we talked about this in another video, it's also like really stressful sometimes.
Yeah,
I get really stressed out. It's because at the end of the game, it's just whoever has the most money wins. And you can make money by being better at like getting a lot of money for your paintings, selling them to other people, like auctioning them off well, or buying paintings and then making a profit off of reselling them later. But it's just a game that almost everyone I've shown it to has said either like immediately, like let's play it again right now, or the next time I see them they say let's play Modern Art. I took this to a cabin with a couple friends about a year or two ago, and we played I think 18 or 20 different games, and this was the only game we played more than once that weekend because everyone just wanted to play it again. Just my highest possible recommendation, quickly running up the ranks of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, great game. Yeah, it's I don't want to say my dog here, Desmond, is getting really upset this video is taking so long, or he just loves Modern Art so much he just really wants to be up here. Modern Art is just I don't want to say it's universal, but it's easy for a lot of people to get into. The rules are like a little more complex than some gateway games, but not so much that it's going to deter anyone. And like you said, it's just tons of hilarity around the table, and it's an auction style game isn't necessarily a type of board game that a lot of people are even familiar with. That is like, I feel like there's a lot of people that I've even explained like, oh, it has auction mechanics or of other games, and they're like, oh, what does that mean or whatever. They know what auction is, but they don't realize that it can exist in a board game format. Yeah, so it is a new genre for someone. It can feel like a brand new experience for a lot of people. It's good on so many levels. Rainer Knizia, like you've said, is one of our favorite designers. So yeah, great pick. Wasn't surprised when you chose it for yours. Yeah,
that is Modern Art.
And that is our holiday buyer's guide. So happy holidays, everyone. Obviously, this is coming out end of November. I'm sure there's some of you out there that don't even want to hear about the holidays or Christmas or anything that you celebrate around this time of year until like late December. But if you're looking for gifts for everyone, for anyone in your life, hopefully this will help you out. Let us know in the comments some other games that you've had success with as gifts, or either ones that you've received or ones you've given to other people. For some of the categories we've listed here, that would be great, or even some categories that we didn't list here. Let us know. Again, we're going to try to do these every single year, and we'll have different categories that we'll have some fun with it, so it's not always the exact same categories every year or anything like that. But yeah, anything
I was just going to say there's only so many categories we can cover, so if there's something you want, you're like, oh, I need a game, like someone really needs a good 2-player game, or there's some type of category we didn't cover, ask us in the comments below. We'll reply to everyone, and we'll come up with any suggestions for anything we might not have covered.
Yeah, we are happy to give recommendations. But otherwise, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks again for joining us for almost an entire another year of All You Can Board. It's blowing our mind that we're back to the holidays here, and we've grown as much as we have. So thanks for sticking with us. And there'll be plenty more content between now and the end of the year. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.